Welcome to Voice of God, where we explore the stories that reveal the limits of human power and the sovereignty of God. In 1991, 8 people were sealed inside a replica of Earth, a massive glass and steel bubble in the middle of the desert. This project, Biosphere 2, was designed to prove that humanity could control nature, that we could build a perfect, self-sustaining world from scratch. It was supposed to be a stepping stone to colonizing Mars, but what happened inside that bubble was a terrifying descent into chaos, suffocation, and the brutal realization that you cannot engineer fate. Let's go back to September 26, 1991, the Arizona desert. It's exactly 8 a.m. A heavy steel airlock hisses shut, sealing 8 people inside this magnificent, futuristic structure. Outside, the rest of the world watches. They called it a triumph of engineering, a living laboratory, a new world. Looking back, it wasn't just science. It was supreme arrogance. The plan was simple, yet incredibly ambitious. For the next 2 years, nothing was supposed to get in. No air, no water, no food. They believed they had accounted for every single variable. They had a flawless plan. This grand vision began 3 years earlier, when Texas billionaire Ed Bass wrote a check for $200 million. The goal? To build a backup drive for Earth. A fail-safe. And so Biosphere 2 was born. A 3-acre glass ark containing a miniature ocean with a coral reef, a rainforest, a savanna, a mangrove swamp, and a desert. It even had its own farm to feed the crew. This was the ultimate expression of humanity's desire for control, precise, calculated, and meticulously planned. The belief was that if you threw enough money and enough math at a problem, you could simulate the work of God. They built what they thought was a perfect world, but they forgot one fundamental truth: perfection doesn't exist in nature. True ecosystems thrive on imperfection and unpredictability. By January 1992, just 4 months into the mission, their perfect calculations started to drift. The first signs of trouble were subtle. It began with the insects. The pollinators, essential for plant life and food production, started dying off. No one knew why. The team had carefully selected 3,800 species of plants and animals. But the complex web of life was unraveling in ways their models couldn't predict. The hummingbirds vanished. The plan said the ecosystem would balance itself. The reality, it was suffocating. And beknownst to the designers, a silent killer was at work. The massive concrete foundation, the very thing holding their world up, was secretly absorbing oxygen and leaching carbon dioxide. It was a variable they hadn't accounted for. As the oxygen levels plummeted, the plants couldn't produce it fast enough to keep up. Air grew thin. The crew began to pant. Just from walking. Sleep became nearly impossible as their bodies struggled for every breath. Their perfect machine was slowly killing them. You see, humanity plans for efficiency. We build straight lines and 90-degree angles, but nature plans for resilience, for chaos, for life itself. And the two are not the same. Inside the bubble, things went from bad to worse. The crops failed. The sweet potatoes, which were supposed to be a staple food, were all they could grow in abundance. The pigs had to be slaughtered early on because they consumed too much food. The chickens stopped laying eggs. Within 6 months, the crew had lost an average of 16% of their body weight. They were literally starving in their man-made paradise. And when hunger sets in, the social contract breaks. The 8 bionauts, who had been chosen for their psychological stability, split into 2 warring factions. They stopped speaking to each other. They accused one another of hoarding food. The utopian dream had devolved into a psychological prison. Meanwhile, outside the glass walls, the mission control team faced a terrible dilemma. They refused to intervene. Breaking the seal would mean admitting defeat. It would invalidate the entire experiment. So they watched as the oxygen levels continued to fall, and the crew inside grew weaker. By August 1992, the situation was critical. Oxygen levels had dropped to just 14%. That's the equivalent of standing on top of a 13,000-foot mountain without any acclimatization. They were slowly dying. The data was clear and undeniable. The experiment had failed. Man's plan had collapsed under its own weight. To save the crew, the management team had to do the unthinkable. They broke the seal. They ordered trucks of pure oxygen and pumped it into the facility. They cheated. In that moment, any scientific validity the project had vanished. They had proven the opposite of what they set out to do. They proved that we cannot create a closed loop. We cannot play God without the lifeline of the world He created. The media tore them apart. Biosphere 2 was labeled a publicity stunt, an embarrassing failure, a bizarre cult. The facility was eventually sold off, the expensive data largely disregarded, but the real lesson was far more expensive than the $200 million price tag. We spend our lives building towers. We map out our career paths, our 5-year plans, our retirement funds. We build architectural marvels and intricate systems to inoculate ourselves against the chaos of the world. We try to control everything, but the one variable you cannot calculate is often the one that brings your entire structure crashing down. The story of Biosphere 2 is a powerful parable. We can build the ship, but we cannot control the ocean. We can build the glass house, but we cannot command the air inside it. Man plans, God laughs. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that explore the boundaries of our world.